Summer is upon us, and this is one of those rare times in the cycle of the year where we have an opportunity to rest and reflect on where we've been and where we're going. I recently listened to my very first episode on the Change Course podcast. We are all change experts. And given that that episode was recorded in January of 2022, it's amazing to look back and think about how far we've come, what we've learned, and what has changed since then. And given that it's summer, I have a few surprises for you for the next few weeks of the Change Course podcast. I wish you a wonderful and restful season, and stay tuned for what's coming next. I'm Natalia Loback, and this is the Change Course podcast. I've spent my career leading complex change and transformation in organizations. And over my career, I've discovered what makes complex transformational change stick. Connected change is all about leading successful change within the context of the organization. And here at the Change Course podcast, we're all about making change sustainable. So listen in, drop us a like, a comment, and let us know how we can help you connect and change. So what's changed? Thinking back to where I was when I first started the Change Course podcast and that very first episode, We Are All Change Experts, was really a reflection on how our society and how, in general, we all look at change differently now. We all went through a massive experience of change. And that episode that I recorded was really reflecting and thinking upon that. Sometimes it's hard to see the change happening around you when you're in the middle of it. I think that the experiences that we've all had between 2020 and the present day, it was undeniable. We all knew that we were in the middle of change. And I think sometimes that is taken for granted. We don't always know when we're in the middle of change, but in this experience, we did know that. What I think has happened since then is that change is now becoming more visible. It's becoming more of an accepted way of things. I think although change has always been there, I mean, let's go back to one of my very first episodes in the beginning, Ebb and Flow, where I talked about Heraclitus of Ephesus. That change is the only constant. Change is the only constant of things. Everything changes all the time. I think, though, what we're seeing is that the pace of change has accelerated significantly, and the amount of change that we're constantly going through is accelerating and accelerating and accelerating. And this creates an environment of an expectation that change will always happen, but also a feeling of fatigue when we're constantly bombarded with change. In recording the Change Course podcast, my goal was always to help people come at change differently. And connected change has always been a big part of the work that I do and the focus of the development of my business over the last 3 years. So understanding how to describe and communicate connected change, but also doing some really deep research around what is this all about? Is it unique, and how does it help people? Now, what I'm trying to do is help you. I feel like I have 14 years of experience, and working through changes that I never expected, working through big organizational changes in various contexts and learning along the way, figuring out what really wasn't working in some of the methodologies that I've been trained in myself, and looking at those approaches and saying, what could be better? The thing that I really want to impress upon people is that the workplace itself, the society and the culture of work is changing. And that has a lot to do with everything we've gone through as a collective society over the past 3 years. There's a lot to do with that and how we've reevaluated our lives and reevaluated our relationship to work and reevaluated our relationship to change. There's a lot of that in there, but also the people who are now occupying our workforce, the people who make up the vast majority of the workforce, has shifted and changed significantly. And so really many of those ways that we used to do things and the approaches that were built upon these old archaic organizational models, old archaic organizational culture, which was very prevalent in the 80s and 90s. Yeah, absolutely. Those were some of the first ways that people broke down and started to work with change. But this is no longer working. We have different expectations. The people that we're working with through change have different expectations and needs and wants and desires. Autonomy is very important. Self-determination. You think about what we're seeing in workplace trends today and then put change on top of that. It's a really different world. And so as I reflect on that first episode, we are all change experts. I think we still are change experts. We understand more about our own relationship to change. We understand more about what we want and what we don't want. And we are also willing to take risks and make changes ourselves, which hasn't always been the case. I feel like people are more willing to do bold things, where in the past we may have been more afraid because of stability, because of income, because of a number of different things. So in thinking on this and reflecting a little bit, I wonder what the next few years will bring. I think that we have another big change upon us in technology. We've now gone into the next technological revolution, which has been brewing for a very long time, but really has finally taken center stage. So artificial intelligence being another big change that is coming and is here and is happening right now. And as much as people say, oh, you know what, I don't want a robot to replace my job. Well, it's not about that. It's about how this new technology is going to revolutionize and change the way we work. Just like the introduction of technology in the 1990s fundamentally changed organizational structures and the way organizations worked at that time. And yes, there were shifts, and yes, there were changes. But ultimately, things have grown. We have accelerated faster because of it. Humans are incredibly adept at creating and using tools. And this is just another example of that. I think it's really exciting. But again, this is now shifting our conversation, our collective conversation around change. What does this mean? And you're always going to hear the naysayers saying we should shut it down, we should not use it. This is bad for us. It's bad for society. If it's unregulated, it can be out of control. Absolutely. And it's interesting to look at that from a viewpoint of resistance. What is it that is driving it? What are people actually saying? What are the underlying fears that are driving it? And there is always some legitimacy there. So what are we doing to listen to stakeholders that have some valid points about caution and risk? And then on the other side, thinking about possibility and where things can go. So I think it's a really interesting time, and it's so interesting to me how rapidly things are changing and shifting now. So the purpose of this podcast and the reason why I want so badly to put this out there every week is because I know that everybody, every single person on this planet is being asked to adapt to lead more change in the workplace and in their personal lives every single day. And as somebody whose life's purpose is figuring out how to navigate change, I really want to try and bring this to as many people as possible, that there is a way to make change happen by working with people, by sparking change within relationships, using positive and strong relationships to accelerate change, create momentum, create an overall positive attitude and approach to how we work with change, overcome change that we don't expect, and navigate changes and plan changes that we need to make. There is a way to do this in our new workplace and organizational context with the new players that are now the majority of our workforce, with the new leadership models and modalities that are now dominant and ever present in our organizations. There is a way. So I hope that this has been at least a little bit helpful and, thinking about and reflecting upon this. So a couple of things I want to tell you about what's coming up over the next few months. I, myself, am going to be taking a well-deserved break. It's been a really intense year, and I am really proud of myself because I've delivered consistent episodes for you over this past year. For those of you who have just joined us, there is a archive, 72 episodes deep for content that you can listen to. But I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break. So the episodes that you're going to be hearing over the summer are going to change a little bit. I'm not going to pull into the archive and rerun episodes. They're there for you. You can go take a look at them. And I do occasionally refer back to different episodes when I'm talking about a specific topic. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to be running some really cool interviews that I did over the past 2 years with various change leaders. And what I love about these interviews is that they are people just like you. They are people just like you who have been asked to step up and lead change, or in some cases, they're experts. They really know their stuff and they have some really cool things to offer you, either in terms of advice, approach, ways to think about things. So what you're going to be hearing over the next couple months are just the audio episodes from my other series, which is called Change the Conversation. So it's a conversation series. I pull in people who do different types of change, who are industry leaders, who are being called to lead change in various ways, and we have a conversation about it. What I love about these episodes is that they're short. So 7 to 10 minutes, it's great for micro-learning. It's great for perhaps how your rhythms will change over this summer period. And then I'll be back at my regular schedule come the fall. So look forward to hearing from you through the summer. I'd love to hear whether or not you enjoyed those episodes and, what other questions you might have. I'd love to hear from you. What are the challenges that you're having? How can I help you? Please let me know. So the other thing that I want to mention is I will also be slowing down on the article publications. So for those of you who are following the Connected Change blog in the various ways that you may be following it, I will be taking a break from publishing over the summer, but my newsletter will still be running. And so for those of you who are looking for change tools, who are looking for specific insights on things, definitely sign up for the newsletter. Don't wait. You'll be hearing from me regularly, once a month. And that's probably the best way to keep up with what's happening at Connected Change while we are in the off season, as I like to call it. So thanks for listening. I look forward to sharing some really cool content with you over the summer. Stay safe, enjoy yourselves, and I will see you back in the fall. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, I invite you to like, share, rate, and subscribe because it helps others find us. Change Course is brought to you by Charthouse Advisory Services and ConnectedChange.com. Our music is Levity by Emily Clausen. Show notes have moved. We're now at ConnectedChange.com. So visit us there under the Change Course podcast page, and you'll find a list of all the resources that I've mentioned here today. While you're visiting us, sign up for the Change Navigator newsletter. You'll keep on top of all things change, and every month we are sharing exclusive content and resources only with our subscribers. So don't miss out. Sign up at ConnectedChange.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late to change course.